In the 90s and early 2000s, the UK music scene saw a wave of girl groups that combined R&B, pop, and garage in ways that felt fresh, stylish, and confident. These were groups that defined what it meant to be young, talented, and unapologetically Black British, way before the mainstream was ready to celebrate them. Groups like Eternal, Cleopatra, and Mis-teeq set the blueprint for the sound of British R&B. They proved that homegrown girl groups could hold their own next to their American counterparts, but over time, their names started to fade from public memory. This is their story. Eternal debuted in 1992 consisting of sisters Esther and Vernie Bennett, with Kelly Bryan and classmate Louise Nerding, later and better known as Louise Redknapp. Esther and Vernie were scouted in a nightclub in London, and they eventually found Louise Nerding. The trio began working together and recording until Louise introduced her longtime friend Kelly to the management and joined the group. They were the UK's first all-female R&B group to reach major mainstream success.
You have had the most fantastic year, haven't you? Wonderful. And you know what? Today we just heard that our album has sold 1.2 million, and we were like, no! Thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant! Yeah. Oh, and so great to hear on Christmas Eve as well.
Yeah.
Their debut single, Stay, was released in September 1993 and reached number 4 in the UK singles chart.
My baby made you cry. You had to say goodbye. Stay with me.
And their first album, Always and Forever, was a huge success, which sold over 1 million copies in the UK alone, which is an insane achievement for a debut R&B record at that time. What made Eternal stand out was that they could deliver powerhouse harmonies that matched American R&B groups like En Vogue or SWV, while still maintaining a distinctly British sound. Eternal consistently competed on the same charts as Britpop and dance acts, something no other British R&B girl group had done before them. However, their journey wasn't without challenges. Behind the scenes, there were reported tensions about image and marketing. Louise eventually left Eternal in 1995, just before their second album. At the time, her exit was officially described as a move to start a solo career.
Okay, what was the Eternal thing all about in the beginning? You know, you and one white girl, 3 black girls. Was that intentional?
Not really, no. I was friends with Kelly, and the other 2 were sisters, obviously, and we kind of met and got together. And
the intention for you to leave, to break away, or not?
It never was, no. I never had in my mind that I ever wanted to be a solo artist, ever. Just towards the end, I felt like I needed that freedom, you know? I was getting a bit...
Does he do that?
Even though Esther Benet was widely recognised as one of the best vocalists of her generation, Eternal's story was often reduced in the press to one of internal conflict rather than artistic success, showing how British media framed Eternal through a racialised lens. After Louise's departure, Eternal continued as a trio and stayed successful, but more disputes followed. Kelly left in 1998 after a reported breakdown in communication and management issues. She later said she was dismissed via a fax by the group's management. By 2000, Esther and Vernie were the only original members left, and although they tried to relaunch, the momentum had just faded. Eternal had an impressive run throughout the 90s. They had 15 UK top 20 hits and sold millions of records worldwide. Just a Step from Heaven was a gospel-influenced anthem that showcased their vocal power.
So don't let troubles bring you down. Believe in the foundation of our love.
Then we had Oh Baby I, which was one of their ballads, Power of a Woman, from their second album, which became an empowerment anthem and proved that they could thrive. And of course, I Want to Be the Only One, featuring BB Winans, which was of course their biggest hit, reaching number 1 in the UK in 1997 and earning them multiple awards.
I wanna be the only one to hold you. Take you from the
All in all, it was internal strain, unequal media attention, and an industry that didn't know how to handle a successful black R&B group all contributed to their breakup. But despite this, they opened the door for black British women in mainstream. Eternal proved that R&B had a place in the UK charts and that a group of black women could achieve multi-platinum success in a predominantly pop-focused industry. A few years later, in 1997, Cleopatra arrived with a completely different energy. They were originally based in Manchester and they were all sisters. Cleo, Yona, and Zaynab Higgins. At first, they were known as Cleopatra and the Attractions, with Cleo as their lead singer and Yona and Zaynab serving as backup singers and dancers. But they later dropped that name and became known as just Cleopatra. They brought a sense of fun and youthfulness to late 90s R&B. Their debut single Cleopatra's Theme entered the UK charts at number 3 and even broke into the US Billboard Hot 100, something that few UK R&B acts had achieved. The song and video was everything. The outfits, the vibe, it was just so fun and nostalgic and something we had never seen before from black British girls. Cleopatra's music blended playful pop with soulful vocals. They represented the lighter, more youthful side of the R&B scene, full of personality, colour and confidence. Their sound and styles were fresh and their image resonated with a generation of young British black girls who finally saw themselves reflected in mainstream media. Cleopatra had a shorter discography, but their hits left a lasting mark on late 90s British pop. Some of their biggest hits include Cleopatra's Theme, of course, which was their debut single and their biggest success. Life Ain't Easy, which was a more mature follow-up that showcased Cleo's vocals and reached the UK top 5. I Want You Back was a cover of course, the Jackson 5 classic, and that also hit top 5 and highlighted their playful style. Their first album, Comin' At Ya, went gold in the UK and earned them international attention. Including tours in the US, they were invited to support the Spice Girls on their UK leg of their sellout Spice World Tour, which was at Wembley Stadium, which is so amazing and so major. And they also had features on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. But Cleopatra's rise was short-lived. Their image as a family-friendly act, supported by appearances on Nickelodeon and a self-titled TV show, made it harder for the industry to take them seriously as they grew older. The transition from teen pop to mature R&B wasn't something labels in the UK were prepared to support, especially for young black women. Cleopatra's split was less about conflict and more about the industry direction. After their first album, Comin' At Ya, they signed to Madonna's label Maverick in the US. Their second album, Steppin' Out, was completed but suffered several delays and limited promotion, and by 2001 the group quietly disbanded. Cleo later said that despite US interest, their team didn't know how to market a black British girl group in the American R&B landscape. They were seen as too pop for R&B and too R&B for pop. That lack of clear identity combined with label changes caused their momentum to stall. There were no public fallouts between the sisters. They remained close and occasionally reunited for performances. Their story reflects how young black British artists were often mishandled by labels rather than failing due to lack of talent or chemistry. Even so, Cleopatra's early success was important. They brought visibility to northern working-class black talent and helped show that R&B could exist beyond London.
so scandalous.
So, Mis-teeq was made up of Alicia Dixon, Sabrina Washington, and Sue Elise Nash.
Hi, we're Mis-teeq.
When they came out in the early 2000s, they brought a really fresh sound. They mixed R&B with UK garage, so their songs worked on the radio but still felt very British.
So I dress tight with my heels high and I think about the moves I'ma pull tonight when I roll up. Guys can move the like they want some. Make way, sexy for me and my lady.
Before they were Mis-teeq, the group was actually called Face to Face. The original three were Alicia, Sabrina, and someone called Tina Barrett. But Tina eventually left to join S Club 7. And that's when Zena McNally and Sue Elise Nash joined. After that, they got signed to Telstar Records, and the label changed their name to Mis-teeq. Their first single came out in 2000, which was a song called Why. The original version was more Latin sounding. But the garage remix by Matt Jam Lamont blew up in the underground garage scene and in the clubs. So it did well, so they filmed a second video for it, and that ended up reaching number 8 on the UK charts.
Tell me why.
We've always been so close together, doing things that only best friends do.
From that point, everything just took off for them. Zena eventually left the group in early 2001 because she felt things weren't balanced within the group. However, Mis-teeq stood out because of how they make strong R&B vocals with garage beats. No other girl group was doing that at the time, and it even helped them break into the US charts. Some of their biggest songs were All I Want, which was a club classic that reached number 2 in the UK. One Night Stand was another top 5 hit. Scandalous, of course, their biggest worldwide single. Can't Get It Back, one of their last singles that they recorded, which had a more mature R&B feel.
Sister all sprung with your tongue. I thought you were my baby. Now
They become one of the key UK girl groups of the early 2000s, and one of the few who actually managed to cross over into the US market. But in 2005, the group split up. It wasn't because of drama, it was because of their label. Telstar had shut down, and without a label, they didn't have the support to keep going, and all 3 members decided to move on with their own careers. Alicia did really well for herself. She went solo and later became a big TV personality here in the UK. Sabrina continued performing and did reality TV, and Sue Elise went into teaching and mentoring young artists. Mis-teeq's time was short, but their impact was big. They were one of the only groups to mix R&B and garage in a way that worked and still felt true to their UK roots. Their breakup also marked the end of an era. With no similar acts to follow, the UK R&B girl group scene largely disappeared from mainstream music for a long time. The vibrant homegrown scene that Eternal, Cleopatra, and Mis-teeq helped build faded into the background. It wasn't that the talent had disappeared, because of course it didn't. It's just that the industry stopped supporting it. In recent years, however, there's been a quiet revival for UK women in R&B. Groups like Flow in particular carry echoes of Eternal and Mis-teeq, harmonies, choreography, and confidence, but in a way that feels modern and global. Ray's songwriting success also show how British R&B has evolved. This new wave shows that the sound those early groups pioneered never really disappeared. It just needed a new generation to bring it forward. Together, they defined an era that proved Black British women could shape pop culture, even if the industry wasn't ready to acknowledge it. Their influence can still be felt today in the way British R&B is being reimagined, celebrated, and led by a new wave of artists. Even though they're not dominating the charts anymore, they will always be a part of British music history.